Well, you wanted it and you got it. Indiana basketball adds a center to this year's squad. And folks, he's really good.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And we have a jam-packed, loaded down episode for you here on Locked On Hoosiers. Later on in the episode, we're going to talk a little bit more football as Fernando Mendoza and Elijah Sarratt find themselves on a premier preseason list and getting some serious love across college football. We'll talk about that, why that's important, and how they can live up to those expectations. Plus, we have more recruiting updates for Indiana basketball. A top 30 player in the country, one of the best guards in the class of 2026, has put Indiana in his top 5. Plus, the Hoosiers are in on an international center as well. And hey, speaking of international centers, that's where we start today's show, because the Indiana Hoosiers and head coach Darian DeVries have made an addition to this upcoming season's roster. Yes, 2025 and 2026, the season that begins in, like 4 months from now. Yeah, they just made an addition to this year's team from overseas, from several countries. A guy who you probably have not heard about, and most people, at least in the United States, have not heard of, but he's young, he's talented, and he is now an Indiana Hoosier. Andrej Acimovic. I've looked it up 100 times and couldn't find a video that pronounced it in a proper way, so that's what I'm rolling with until somebody corrects me. Andrej Acimovic. 6'11", 225 pounds. He's from Bosnia, so he plays overseas, but he plays in some of the highest level of basketball overseas as well. Folks, he just turned 18 years old. He is a young puppy, He is a legitimate college freshman, all right? Has 4 years of eligibility. He's coming overseas from over there to over here, and he's going to play for your Indiana Hoosiers. Again, 6'11", 225 pounds. And you've been asking for this, right? Indiana, you have been begging for more size on this team. After what I think was a very successful transfer portal cycle, the concern was, man, is Reed Bailey all we've got? Is Reed Bailey the only center, true center that is, that we're going to have on this team? That's concerning. We're worried about the lack of size, especially playing in the Big Ten. Sure, you have Sam Alexis, who transferred in from Florida, but let's be honest, there's mixed reviews on him, and I think, personally, he's more of a traditional Big Four rather than a true 5. And so you go out and get somebody like an Andrej Acimovic, who is uber talented. Is he young? Absolutely. Is he raw? Yeah, you bet. But he's somebody that can play. Folks, this is somebody that's averaging 17 plus points in the highest league that he can compete in at his age. This is somebody that can shoot it at over 30% from downtown. This is somebody that holds his own in the lane on both ends of the floor, and his skill set is blocking shots. He can pass the basketball. He can make hard cuts. He plays the pick and roll perfectly. This is somebody that Indiana needed. This is somebody the Hoosiers were missing. And look, we were being told and hearing that this was a possibility of Indiana adding another player. But with all this international stuff, man, it really is tough to gauge and judge sometimes, just because, man, there's a lot of extra hoops you have to jump through for some obvious reasons nowadays. And so I wasn't getting too hung up on if Indiana was going to make this happen. I told you here on the show, I said, look, if Indiana adds somebody, great. We'll take it. We'll run with it. And we'll add to this team now being the 13th scholarship player, which Darian DeVries has told us this is all he's going to do. But I wasn't just dead set 100% on, yep, this is absolutely going to happen. And I feel 100% confident in this. I never felt that way. But I knew Indiana was trying, and I'm glad that they were able to make this thing work, and I'm glad that it is Acimovic, so like I said, he's the final player on this roster, somebody that if you just turn on the film, man, the skill set speaks for itself. I mean, somebody that, yes, can operate with the basketball in his hands. Of course, it's definitely on the lower blocks and more around the painted area, but someone who facilitates really well. His basketball IQ is really, really high. And folks, when you see this 6'11" unicorn shoot it from outside, it is really, really pretty. He looks and is built like a Kristaps Porzingis, right? Who played for the Knicks and played for the Celtics this past year. He looks like that, but older Porzingis who actually developed a jump shot and actually looks a little agile and athletic a little bit. That's what he reminds me of. But I think even better. I mean, even more of a shooter, more of a playmaker than Kristaps Porzingis. And he's only 18 years old, is Acimovic. So you're talking about somebody here that has all the potential in the world. And the fact that Indiana landed him over some pretty big names is a big, big sign. Okay. And so you look at what Indiana has on the roster now. You just added somebody who averages 17, 18 points a game. He has several instances where he went off for 25, 30, 35 points in some of these big time matchups over there in 16U, 18U, and all these different leagues that you're able to play in. This dude's legit. And you add him as a freshman, basically, to your roster. The second international player that you've added, of course, the Serbian sharpshooter we've talked about. And you have Trent Sisley as your lone United States American freshman that's coming in as well. Folks, this roster's stacked. This is the piece you were missing. This is the piece you've been asking for, is another piece at the center spot. And now when you look at the fact that Indiana as a whole has pretty much everything you could want, man, I'm excited for this. We've talked about the guards. We've talked about the size at the guard position. You've got a couple of dudes who I think can kind of play both ways, right? I think Josh Harris and Trent Sisley, for that matter, are guys that can play as big guards or as a small forward. And Tucker DeVries is not necessarily in that same boat. He's definitely more of a three leaning into a four, but he handles himself and plays like a guard. But in terms of your big men, now you have, in terms of your height, the tallest guys on the team, Andrej Acimovic. He's now the tallest listed man on the roster. So there you go. There's a stat that you can run with for the day. He's the tallest player on this Indiana basketball team. It's him, then Reed Bailey, then Sam Alexis. And those are going to be your three. Those are your three big men. Those are going to be the ones that you rely on. Now, there's the obvious things of he still has to come over here. He's still got to get acclimated with the team and with the United States and with the system and with the campus and the program and all that. We get all that, right? That all goes without having to be said. Now you just wonder, okay, how quickly can he do all of those things? And how quickly can he get in college basketball shape? I'm not saying he's out of shape or not going to be able to handle it. You're just talking about two different things here. And then my question becomes, okay, how much do you rely on him early? How much does that evolve throughout the season? Or does he come in and just dominate and you can't keep him off the floor? I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I'm really excited about the addition of Andrej Acimovic. He's going to wear number 15 for the Indiana Hoosiers. Again, the freshman center, 6'11", 225, and the Hoosiers have made their final addition to the roster for 2025 and 2026. And man, I am super pumped about what this team could be this year for first-year head coach Darian DeVries. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we will continue talking basketball, but more on the recruiting side. Had a bunch of notes for you yesterday. We got two more for you today. We talk about that coming up next here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with the 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days when you're out there on the golf course or if you're off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. For me, man, it's when I make the turn, man. When I go in the clubhouse, I've already shot like 8 over on the front nine. I get a sandwich, I get some chips, I need something. And by the time I'm on hole 11, I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to make it. That's where a 5 hour energy transfusion comes in. Take that sucker, you're good to go, and you're running on 18. Okay. That's what I always enjoy doing. It's the best way to go, and you should be a part of it too. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code Locked On Golf to receive $20 off your order. That's Locked On Golf. Okay. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, supporting the show any way that you do. Reminder to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're making a push to 6,000 subscribers, okay? I'd love to get there by the end of the month, which is approaching pretty quickly. So if we could get there, awesome. If not, we'll get there eventually, but I hope you will be a part of that. Make sure you follow us on your audio platforms as well, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, however you do it. Just make sure that you are following along, have those notifications turned on, because I don't want you to miss anything that we're doing over here at Locked On Hoosiers, all right? And we continue with today's show, talking more high school recruiting. And we talked about a couple of names yesterday, right? Anthony Thompson, Latrell Allman, guys like that who have Indiana in their top list, have scheduled visits to Indiana. And we continue that train today. We have two more names that we need to talk about for the Indiana Hoosiers. We'll keep it on the international side first, because this is something we have discussed quite a bit on this show. And I've told you that Darian DeVries and his staff have put in a concerted effort to make relationships with international players, with international organizations in several different countries and all these different national teams and the 16Us and the 18Us. Like, Indiana and Darian DeVries quickly realized you need to go over and get some of these kids. And they're not the only ones. I'm not saying that they've pioneered this wild idea. I'm saying they've jumped on it and gone harder than most, because people have realized, and coaches and programs have realized, like, man, there's some pretty good players overseas. There's some really good players in Europe and all around there, and whatever country you can come up with, just close your eyes, point a finger on the map, and just see who's there, and you're going to find somebody. And for so long, right, I feel like in college basketball, it wasn't frowned upon. It just wasn't acted upon, if that makes sense, because it's a process and it's difficult. And there's, like I mentioned earlier, there's a ton of hoops you have to jump through to make a lot of this stuff possible. And for so long, right, there was concern that the games wouldn't translate, right? Well, you played in France, but I mean, can you really play in the United States? I mean, come on. But I think what you've seen on the international circuit in terms of, heck, with FIBA and now with the Olympics and things, man, you've seen over the years, really over the last 20 years, the world has caught up to the United States in terms of just overall basketball talent and skill and success. Just look at this past Olympics that we just saw. The United States won because Steph Curry went off. I promise I'm getting back to Indiana. But France and Serbia and all these other teams, man, they pushed the United States to the brink. That's because they have really good basketball players. And the fact that the world has caught up to the United States. And so where I'm going with this is colleges and college basketball has realized, man, there's some good players that we're missing out on. So if we can't get all of our kids here in the States, let's go over there and get some kids. And that's exactly what Indiana has done. They've put a serious focus on that, and it's already starting to pay off. I mean, look at what you've already got between Andrej Acimovic now, and you also bring in Alexa Ristic, right? Your Serbian kid who's going to be on the team this year as well. You bring in two dudes with 4 years of eligibility. That's huge, man. That's absolutely huge for what Indiana is trying to do. And we add to that list with a guy who has cut his list, one of the best recruits in the 2027 class, has set all of his official visits. All right. Well, maybe not all of them, but he's at least got them started. And he's got 5 official visits set for Sayon Keita. He's someone who is super, super skilled. Okay. He is someone who you need to know in the class of 2027. He's got some visits set. He's from Barcelona, Spain. Again, Sayon Keita. I'll spell it for you if you want to look him up. Sayon Keita. All right, Sayon Keita. He's from Spain. He is someone who is going to be taking several visits, okay, over the next several, I guess, weeks and months. He's a true center. There ain't no doubt about it. There's no arguing on what position he's going to play. He's 7 foot 215, folks. 7 foot tall, 215 pounds. He is as true of a center as you can find, okay? And he has started to set some of his official visits. And, of course, the reason I'm talking about him is because Indiana is on this list. And believe it or not, it actually has already started because Keita is on a visit to Indiana today. Okay, he started with Kansas on July 28th. He's now going to be at Indiana on the 29th of July. Kentucky's on July 30th. He basically just came overseas and he's just going to hit as many as he can in one big trip. He's going to Kentucky July 30th, Duke on the 31st, North Carolina on August 2nd, and then going to UConn on August 2nd as well. That's from 247. Reporting that earlier yesterday. And so came overseas, again, a 7-footer, one of the best international prospects that there is. No ranking for him, but they're saying he could be the top ranked center in the class of 2027. And fun fact, folks, again, as he visits Kansas, Indiana today, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and UConn, fun fact, there's some serious wind and momentum and feeling that he could reclassify to the class of 2026, which, when you think about that for a second, would be pretty wild. And it would be wild because think about all the centers we've talked about in that 2026 class, the ones that Indiana's in on and the ones that we aren't. Folks, this is a loaded center class for 2026. And the Hoosiers are in on a kid who could instantly, if he says, yeah, I'm reclassifying, I'm in the new, I'm no longer class of 2027, I'm class of 2026. He would instantly, I think, take over the top spot, which is insane to think about. The fact that you could really rock the class like that, but the fact that the Hoosiers are in on him as well. In terms of where Indiana stands with him, it's still an ongoing process. As I mentioned, this kid in Keita is basically flying to the States, hitting as many schools. I mean, what is that? That's 1, 2, it's 5 schools, right? Yeah, it's 3, 4, or it's 6 schools, right? Kansas, Indiana, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, UConn in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 schools in 6 days. That's what he's doing, man. That's unbelievable. That's pretty wild. Good for him. But Indiana's on that list. And so you're instantly, all of a sudden, whether he is 2026 or 2027, he's somebody who is just, goes without saying, uber talented. But the fact that Indiana's in on him, great start. You're getting a visit from him today. We'll see how it goes and see what his decision will be in terms of his reclassification. But keep your eyes out on him. But we also move back to the 2026 class because one of the best guards in that class of 2026, who we have talked about quite a bit on this show, his name is Junior County, and he now has Indiana inside of his top 5, along with some other big-name programs. As you would imagine, Junior County, just to give you a little insight, just a little reminder, 6'4", 180 pounds, the true 4-star guard, could be a 5-star by the time it's all said and done. Top 30 player, no matter where you look in any of these rankings across high school basketball. And in terms of the state of Utah, because that's where he's from, he's the best player there. There's really no debating on that one. He's listed as a shooting guard, but he's somebody that can play both positions, which is really exciting for what his college career could look like. He's considered, according to 247, which is where I typically look, he's the second ranked shooting guard in the entire class. So, yeah, this is somebody that you want. His shooting stroke is so pretty, and somebody that you can just see when you watch the film. He's just a natural at shooting the basketball. The stroke is quick. It's a fast release. It's super smooth. No real hesitancy on it. No debating on. I mean, it's just a really smooth stroke. And he's also good with and without the basketball in his hands, which is what I really like. The idea that, sure, he can facilitate, he can orchestrate, he can run the offense if you need him to, or he can play off ball. He can find open space. He can set off ball screens. He can make the extra pass, the hockey assist, if you will, and assisting in that and making sure the right play is made. You can see that when you turn on the film with Junior County. And man, you start talking about him with some of the other guards that we've talked about on this show on what Indiana could pull in, like a Duron Rippey or something like that. I mean, or Jordan Smith. I mean, those type of guys. You're talking serious talent on what Indiana could be bringing in for the class of 2026. 6'4", he's gotten it down to a final five of Indiana, Purdue, UConn, Maryland, and Arizona. I'll say it again: Indiana, Purdue, UConn, Maryland, and Arizona. The only one that he's technically visited was Purdue. That was last fall. I expect him to get all of these set up, take visits to all five, and we'll see where the Hoosiers stand. But that's a good list of schools, man. I mean, look, Arizona has really come on strong in the last couple of years to get back into the basketball landscape. Buzz Williams is now at Maryland. Don't forget that, okay? Buzz Williams, formerly at Texas A&M, is over there. We know Matt Painter at Purdue. Right, we know Dan Hurley at UConn, and now you've got new head coach Darian DeVries at Indiana. So you continue to make strides with the best players in high school basketball. You're down in the top five for him. We talked about a top 7 yesterday. We talked about a top 9 yesterday. We're talking about one of the best centers overseas is coming to visit you right now. You're doing things the right way. And Indiana has just exploded on the scene in high school recruiting. Schools are worried, and they should be, because Indiana is a serious threat for all these kids we talk about, including Junior County, a top 30 player, and Sayon Keita, one of the best centers in all of professional overseas high school basketball, is the best way that I can describe it. All right, we got a final segment coming up for you on Locked On Hoosiers. We'll flip over to football because more preseason love for the boys, and Curt Cignetti will talk about that, how they can live up to those expectations right after this here on Locked On Hoosiers. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciate you and your time and your support of this show. And as I mentioned, if you are listening on audio, just make sure you're following us and have those notifications turned on, right? I don't want you to miss any episodes. And then if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, hit that thumbs up, tells me and the folks at YouTube that you like what we're doing. It'll share it with more folks. Also, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below, your thoughts on Acimovic being added to the team, more recruiting stuff in terms of Junior County and Keita, or some of the football stuff that we've been talking about as well. I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and then make sure that if you have not already, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, like I mentioned, 6K is what we're pushing for, and I want you to be a part of that. So thank you very much. All right, final segment here on today's show, and we move into football because Fernando Mendoza and Elijah Sarratt have been listed on the Maxwell Award watch list, which is handed out to the most outstanding player in college football. And look, most teams get somebody on here. The fact that the Hoosiers have 2 is really incredible to me. And the fact that they're both on offense is really fascinating to me as well. And in terms of, well, this one being a heavily offensive award, just one that, again, that's how they describe it, is awarded to the most outstanding player in college football, one that has 80 players on it. So the fact that you get 2 players from your team is pretty incredible. And it just goes to show, and again, building on the hype of Fernando Mendoza and then the proven commodity of Elijah Sarratt. Could there be more names on here? Absolutely. But I'm very impressed and proud for those two guys to be on this list. I expect them to not really be off of this list at any time this year. And man, I saw a list the other day that had Fernando Mendoza as the third ranked quarterback going into the season in the Big Ten. And it's like, holy smokes, man. Like, look, I'm pumped for Mendoza. I am. But the more hype that he gets and the more excited that others are starting to get for this Indiana offense, it's like, man, I hope that it pans out, right? And I'm not doubting. I'm just hoping that it does come to fruition on what we believe can happen. And I think it just goes to show, right, the confidence in him, the confidence in the guys around him. That includes the guys up front, the guys in the running back room, the receivers he'll be throwing the football to, and then, of course, just the offensive game plan as a whole. But people are starting to believe in this Indiana team a little bit, and it's on the offensive side of the football, and rightfully so, with two of your best receivers back, a running back room by committee, and an offensive line that's going to be drastically improved. It's hard not to buy into this team or this offense and what they can be and what they're supposed to do. But in terms of Elijah Sarratt, here's my concern here. I have no concern, no worries whatsoever about Sarratt being an incredible athlete, receiver, and playmaker for this team. But he also continues to get a lot of hype and love and preseason predictions and things like that. And there's just no doubt that he's supposed to be wide receiver one. And what concerns me about that is that if you know he's wide receiver one, and I know that he's wide receiver one, you know who else knows that he's wide receiver one? Every opponent that you play. Which means their best defender's going to be on him. They're always going to pull a double if they can, and he will be covered, smothered, and country. Okay, that's just how he's going to have to play. And I look at this two ways, right? Because it's going to happen. He's going to get the attention of the defense every single time. There's two ways to go about this that I'm going to be looking for this season for Sarratt. I look at this as, what can he do to continue to get open, make plays with or without the football, and be an impact on the offensive side, right? What can he do? Elijah Sarratt speaking here. What can he do even though he's being covered by the best dude on the other side? He's going to be doubled quite often, and they're all going to have their attention on him. How can you make an impact on this team? He's still going to get his. I'm no concern there whatsoever. But it may not be to the extent that some people think, because he's the one that they're going to be focused on. But how can you make plays other than the big time touchdown grabs, right? So I look for that for Elijah Sarratt, but also look for who can step up in those situations. If he's double covered, somebody else has got to step up. And there's some obvious choices, sure, but I think there's some that could prosper, if you will. And that's not just on the receivers in the room. That's on Fernando Mendoza to find them. That's also on the offense to just draw up plays to get them open. Maybe use Sarratt as a decoy and get somebody else open. Then when they focus on this dude, boom, there's Elijah Sarratt. If you forget about him, he's gone. And so those are the two things that I look for in the receiver room in particular, just because of the preseason hype that Elijah Sarratt is getting. But love to see him and Fernando Mendoza on the Maxwell Award watch list, hoping that they continue to get their way on these types of lists. And then hopefully we're talking about these guys being on it towards the end, and possibly one or both of them sitting in New York for a Heisman Trophy ceremony as well. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. We're having a ton of fun as we are winding down the month of July and cranking it up in the month of August, okay? So we're really excited for that. Looking forward to all the coverage we can bring you for football, recruiting, basketball season, and more. It's all right here at Locked On Hoosiers, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.